It was the end of my junior year of high school, 2023. My school was hosting an end of the year celebration for the seniors, and even though I wasn't a senior at the time, I managed to slip through the cracks of the party due to the fact that there were so many people attending. At that time, I had a few friends in high school who were seniors, so it made it even easier to blend in with the crowd. For the record, the school was actually closed for the day, but since it was the middle of June, most of the students were outside enjoying the good weather and playing all sorts of activities. At that point in the year, classes and finals were already done with, so a majority of the rooms in the school were closed off since we didn't need them anymore. A few friends of mine and I spent the most of our time outside playing games like Can Jam or Cornhole, and when my friends and I weren't participating in activities outside, they were going around the entirety of the school saying their final goodbyes to some of their teachers. While my friends went around the school saying goodbye to their favorite teachers, I tried to do a little socializing by myself. So for about an hour, I went around the school campus talking to any other senior that I might have recognized. There were a few familiar faces that I recognized amongst the seniors, but for the most part, the other seniors that I didn't know that well were just acquaintances. So without my friends being with me, I tried my best to strike up conversations with some of the people that I knew, but the conversations that I had ended up being awkward and dry. For a while, I couldn't find my friends again, and besides them, I didn't really know any other seniors that I could talk to, so I decided to go into the school and to a secret spot that I knew about. Like I mentioned previously, most of the doors in the school were closed off, and as I started to develop this uncomfortable and almost suffocating type of feeling while being outside by myself, I walked over to the far right corner of the school to a secret room that not even some teachers knew about. Throughout the school year, I regularly went to this spot anytime I felt like my social battery was just draining. My secret spot was just an ordinary room, but this room was different from the others because it looks like it hasn't been used in the last 2 decades. There was a whole bunch of randomly placed furniture, and you could tell it was a classroom because there was a chalkboard at the far right wall. I was surprised that this classroom wasn't being used, because even though it wasn't nearly as big as the other rooms, it still had a lot of potential. Anyway, I went to this one particular spot in the room that I cleaned off, since the rest of the room was considerably dirty. My preferred spot was this little chair and desk that was just out of the line of sight from the door. For the first 5 minutes or so, I had no idea what I wanted to do. My whole reason for even being in the room was due to anxiety, so it wasn't like I went into the room with a direct purpose. I took this alone time to gather all my thoughts and try to calm down my anxiety. After I took some time to reset myself, I pulled out my phone to see if I could contact my friends, but that's when I remembered that any time that I went into this room, I couldn't use my phone because I never had any service. Realizing that I couldn't do too much while in this room, I decided to take a little nap, so I pulled out my phone once again and put a timer on for 20 minutes. Everything was peaceful and quiet until my nap was briefly interrupted when I heard something. 2 feet away from the door, I could hear footsteps approaching. At first I thought it was one person, but when I listened more closely, it definitely sounded like more than one person. The rhythm of the footsteps was more than 2 feet, and it sounded like 2 boys laughing about something. The footsteps crept closer and closer to the door, and then suddenly the door to the room was pushed open. One of the boys, who I presumed to be a senior, stepped in. He just stood at the doorway, scanning the entirety of the room in such an awkward way. He turned his head to the right, and that's when we locked eyes. Even after we made eye contact, he just stood there still, awkwardly smiling, and he didn't say a single word to me. Feeling overwhelmingly weirded out from all of the awkward silence, I decided to make my way outside of the room. I got up from my seat and made my way to the door, and that's when he decided to finally say something. He asked me to stop walking and told me that there was something on the back of my neck. After I tried removing whatever he was talking about, he told me that it was still there, and he said he could help. Giving him a verbal okay, he stepped closer and pretended that he was looking for something. To be completely honest, I never knew why I gave him permission to stop me. I guess at first a part of me wanted to believe that he was telling the truth. But when he leaned in and licked my neck, I knew things took a serious turn for the worse. In that very moment, I froze like a deer in the headlights. And if licking my neck wasn't disturbing enough, he then proceeded to grab my chest and reach under my shirt. I felt completely defenseless and I had no idea what to do. And what disturbed me the most was his facial expression while he was doing all of this. I could tell that he was getting some sort of enjoyment out of all of this. While all of this was going on, I could see that he started to play with the drawstrings on his shorts. And that's when the panic inside me elevated to a different level. Then out of nowhere, his friend entered the room and pulled him away from me and told me to get out of there immediately. Without any hesitation, I left the room immediately and I ran back outside of the school. To be honest, I felt so violated that I didn't even want to find my friends again. I just simply wanted to go home. For the last few years, it felt very uncomfortable retelling this story. Fortunately, I'm slowly starting to get better, but there is no way I'll ever be able to forget that day.